Hey everybody, and welcome to my last episode of What Can Contrast Do? What an interesting ride. These videos were way more popular than I thought they would be, and yeah, they raised a lot of questions. And the final question I'm going to take for what can Contrast do is going to be, can you use this to paint a model nicely, quickly, I guess would be the way I'd put it. Can you use these to basically enhance the techniques you already have? And if you are a painter who likes to paint well and paint fast, then can this be used as basically a useful tool to get base coats down quickly and improve the speed of your painting? And I mean, the answer is going to be yes. Like, this isn't really a test. This is just really a show. It's just paint. It's just paint with the different consistency and a different sort of medium that's suspending the pigment. And a good painter is going to be able to use any paint really to improve the quality of their painting or to just achieve a different result. It's just it's a tool in your arsenal basically to get something done. And the big key elements that this is going to add is a little bit of speed in your transitioning colors from dark to light, depending upon what you lay underneath it, a different way of doing glazes, and depending on what kind of medium you add to it and things that you change, a different way of just tinting existing tones. So I picked a model with lots of cool detail on it. It's the Lord of Plagues, one of my favorite Warhammer Age of Sigmar models, and actually a classic Warhammer Fantasy Battle model. I hope you guys enjoy this angle. I got all kinds of complaints. It's so funny, when having never done painting videos before, there's basically, this is the 3 stages of learning. I just made it up as I went along for the first one. For the second one, obviously, there was a bit more science applied. Now for the third one, it feels pretty good, but I'm sure someone's gonna complain about something, tell me my videos are garbage and I should stop making them. They're basically useless. But yeah, I don't really fucking care. So I'm just making these videos to answer questions. So this time around, I'm not just gonna bang them onto the model, and that was something that people, I felt like nitpicked out with the first like 9 videos. But the whole point of the videos was to show them as advertised, which is you just take them out of the like pot, bang them onto the model, and see what happens. So yeah, we're not gonna do that this time. We're gonna use them as glazes basically. And use them to enhance a base coat. So the big key trick that these paints do is they take a base coat of a light color like a beige or a very light gray, and they give you a way to like layer a transparent piece of glass over top of it. So if that's how you think about the transit, like these paints, if you think of it as like a piece of glass, colored glass going over top of something, the light is still going to kind of shine through the glass and give you a result. So what we're going to experiment with today is, can you use these to enhance different kinds of base coats? And that's probably the best title for this. I was really struggling with kind of, because the title of the video and the title that you see in the little screen is going to be whatever my brain comes to when this is done, because this is the summation of a bunch of different questions. But I guess, can you use Citadel Contrast paints to enhance different kinds of base coat? And I know already the answer is going to be yes, but we're going to show off what that looks like now. So I've primed this fellow with some Wraithbone, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in and block in a bunch of other base coats using different colors. So this is combining techniques, right? So instead of just having the Wraithbone under everything, I'm going to have some metallic. This is a great Privateer Press color called Boiler Black. There's a very similar color called Black Metal from Scale 75 that I like a lot too, but Boiler Black, just because I find that these paints are a little more readily available, I figured I would showcase this one. And it's a really nice rolled steel color. Actually, there's another, I think it's a Scale 75 color called Rolled Steel as well. That's like it's just a really nice, to me it looks like really old bolt gun metal, where bolt gun metal is a little bit blue. I'm going to go and I'm going to bang that onto all of his armory bits. So like his shoulder pad, and this is really hard because now I've got the camera focused like super far. I don't know how you professional painter dudes do this. I got the camera like dialed right in, so I don't have a lot of room to like mess about basically and get things exactly right. And I can't really turn the model over either because I'm super paranoid that he's going to go out of focus or that I'm going to just move him off screen. I have a bunch of like cues taped onto my cutting board here to try and keep this in the right spot. But yeah, Duncan, you make this look easy, man. Good job. This is what practice gets you. Practice gets you perfect. I've definitely managed to I guess what was it? I've managed to educate myself a bit on how this works, and I've certainly managed to educate myself in the idea that I do not find this relaxing. I find this incredibly stressful and not enjoyable to make as far as painting videos go. I'm sure there's people who love making them, but they are not for me because I like to paint to relax, and this is way too stressful. So you can see I'm just blocking in, and I've thinned this down a little bit with a dot of water just so it runs really nicely into the recesses. And actually, hilariously, what this Boiler Black is doing right now is very similar to what these contrast paints are doing. It's running the recesses, actually leaving this beige base coat showing up and actually almost self-highlighting itself really nicely. But it's going to give me a bit of metallic too. I love this miniature because he's just so derpy. Like, he has a sense of weight to him. He's so big and like mean, but at the same time he has this like, I guess, slow menace. I'm not sure who sculpted this guy. He's one of the very end of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Miniatures minis, so he still ranks up. Like, he's still one of those minis. He came with, I actually popped him off his 25mm square base when I rebased him for 40mm just now to do this painting video. And he's got a wonderful, like, even though he's very static because he's a Fantasy Battle miniature, he had to rank up. He has this wonderful sense of like menace and foreboding to him. I feel like he's a Juan Diaz miniature, but I don't think he is. I think this is from the early era of digital sculpting because he's plastic. I don't know if Juan did any digital sculpting. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I'm going to block in all the metallics because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these contrast paints to put some color basically on this metallic. And this Boiler Black is nice and robust. It goes right over the beige, but you can see, especially in the chainmail, it pools nicely and gives you that wicked transition between dark and light. And also, I've got like 10 Chaos Warriors and some Blight Kings and a bunch of stuff to use. This will be my meeting engagement army for the new 1000 point level competitive play structure for Age of Sigmar that's just been announced on Warhammer Community, because I'm super stoked about it. So you only need 1,000 points. I'm actually running a painting challenge for it too, and I'm cheating a little bit to this video, just showing this guy off, but they'll forgive me because I can't actually win the challenge. Everybody else can. I'm the one running it. So I think that's it. Oh, it's just his helmet. His helmet's left. Let's get his helmets and some of this. And so we're basically leaving all of the stuff that we want to paint with the contrast paints, and base coating in with blocks all the stuff we want to paint a different tone, like to have come up from a different tone. Oh geez, I'm dropping things now because I'm so like desperate to keep them on camera. That's looking pretty good. I think we got all the chainmail there. So that's giving us a metallic base coat, you can see, for all of that stuff. To change the tone on like his, I don't know what I call it, his Nurgle diaper, his tabard. I don't even know what I should call it. I want to go a little bit darker than I'm currently at. So I think I'm going to put some Xandri Dust in there. It's another Citadel color, just so that it has a different underlying tone than the skin. It's still a fairly light, like dun color, almost an Adobe sort of color. But it's going to mean that whenever I put over top of this, is going to have a very different look from the skin. I'll help the skin to pop out. I could do something striking like purple over top of this. I'd be really interested to see how that turns out actually, or maybe a turquoise. Because the rest of him, he's got his like wicked chainmail diaper, which is just super, super creepy looking. But we'll get that base coated. I think it's like underneath, or like between him and the chainmail to prevent chafing, I would imagine. And the last thing I want to do is I want to go pick out everything that I want to have be bronze. And I'll use one of my favorite bronze colors, which is Rune Lord Brass. It covers really well. It's got a good consistency. And it does separate a little bit though. So you have to always give it a really good shake when you're getting ready to do this. How you looking? There we go. We're nice and done. But I can usually put a little bit of water in it and it doesn't thin down so much that it doesn't cover anymore. And it should cover this beige really nice. He's got these little discs that I'm going to paint up. And that way I can tint them either with the same contrast paint or a different one. And that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. That seems to be where and how I want it. The only thing I might do is the guts. Just throw a little pink in there so that, and again, I'm gonna go light. Actually, no, I'm not gonna use a pink, I'm gonna use a flesh tone. Just because again, this is a color that's gonna be popping out from underneath. And so by doing these, like, by basically changing what the underlying tone is, but keeping it relatively bright, the contrast paints are going to behave differently. So for his guts and stuff, I'm going to do a little bit of flesh tone. So the rest of him stays fairly, like, pale. And then that's goo, so we'll leave the goo. But I might do all the raw skin too, that's underneath there. Just everything that's gonna be raw, I'm gonna give it this like fleshy color. And then when I put the contrast on there, it should pop a little bit differently. And the only other thing I can think of I really wanna do is the skulls. Get a little bit under there. That's like a pustule, but we'll deal with that later. I'm just gonna bang some of that beige coin. There's a base coat. And what I'm effectively doing here, so I'm just painting with glazes. This is a super common technique for doing stuff. And I'm gonna blend stuff up again afterwards. Like, I'm not just gonna leave the contrast paints out there once I've put them down. I'm gonna go back and like work it all again to give it some more definition and stuff. I wanna change the beige underneath all the bone, I think, so that it's not the same as the skin. Oh shit, I completely forgot his vambrace. That's okay. We have lots of wet paint still on the palette because I thin my paints. Let's get that vambrace. Luther vambrace? No. Let's get that one. And then there's a, let that dry for a minute because there's a bit of bronze that needs to go on top of that too. There's a fly on there. But yeah, with the wood and the bone, I think I want to change the colors of, just so they pop differently when I put stuff over top. And maybe, are those all nails sticking out of there? Yeah, they kind of are. So yeah, let's just change the tone underneath that, and we're gonna put some metallic on all those nails. Every time I say metallic, I get For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica stuck in my head. And then whenever I get that song stuck in my head, I have the intro to Zombieland stuck in my head, because it's probably the best use of that song ever. I wonder if I would get demonetized for singing that song if the algorithm would come and pick me up. Just like humming For Who the Bell Tolls, because like I can't think of it now without being like da 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 na 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 in my head. But I think that's considered parody. I should be okay. And let's put that in there. And yeah, and then so just changing this underlying tone means that when we start playing with these paints, they should all pop like a little bit differently. So even though I use the same paint in two places, same different contrast paint in two places, it's going to give a different effect probably when it's all said and done. He's so spiky, I have a hard time keeping him on camera. Just figuring out where the hell he's supposed to be. It's looking pretty good. I think we're just gonna stick with that for now. Oh no, we need to get that bronze on where the fly is. His little vambrace fly. Are you dry enough? Almost. Oh, you know what we'll do when we wait? Is we'll paint all the nails. Oh, I had to have somebody rag on me for paintbrush licking. He told me I bring down the entire hobby. And I was like, what? Well, don't tell the old masters that, because they went insane with the licking their brushes to put points on them with their poisonous paints. Poor Renaissance masters and their poisonous paints. Should never lick those. And then I'm gonna grab a bit of the base tone. It's just like got a little bit of metallic there on his chest from the helmet. Let's just touch that up, a little drop there just to cover it up. And then I did mess up this, because that is a horn. That's not even part of the helmet. It's just growing out of his head. That's not even like ornamental. It's just a blessing of Grandfather Nurgle. And so there we go. So this is the trick now. We've basically added in panel painting and just block painting in base coats, so that when we start using these the contrast paints, they're gonna pop over different colors. And I'm excited about that. I think that's gonna be sort of the most common way that I use these. It's just as like thicker inks and thicker washes. They're there to tint what goes underneath them. And I'm gonna use some of the contrast medium to thin them down a little bit. So I think I'm gonna start with the biggest area. Not really, I wanna start with the smallest area, I think, just to let it go a little bit darker. And we're gonna start with some green. Yeah, we're gonna start with some green on all of the, I'm gonna use the Militarum green. I'm gonna thin it down a little bit. And we're gonna put it on the skin. Let the metallics go afterwards. So I'm gonna add some medium to it. My brush here, so I'm not mixing stuff into my medium. Put some medium in. And then a little dot of water. And people kept asking me, saying you can't use water, you can't use water, can't use water. Well, you absolutely can. These are all water-based paints. You can put water into any of this stuff. It will change the consistency of the medium, but I want the medium to be lighter here because I want it to not, so what you're doing is you're changing the saturation when you start adding water to it because the medium is going to suspend differently. So now watch, when I put it over the skin, it's not nearly as dark as this is going on straight out of the pot. It's just going to kind of taint his flesh tone there and make him look kind of bilious and sickly. Because that's what I'm going for. I don't want this to go full on like I'm painting the camo pants on a bunch of Cadians. I want this to just take the primer and make it look as though these guys caught the rot. Right? He is 100% not well. And so I think that's, again, I'm making a wash that's going to stain the top layers a little bit and give me a nice faded transition from the beige undercoat, the Wraithbone undercoat, down into this green in the recesses. And it's still flowing really well into the recesses if you look at that. It's doing a good job of hugging the recesses even with a tiny little like brush full of water. Like it's not like I'm using a pile of water there. It's just whatever the brush picks up when I stick it in the thing. And I am going to put some green on that goo already, but I'm going to go back over it once it's dry with a different green and make it even more goo colored. And so again, this is just a quick way of putting a foundation on the skin here. I'm going to go back afterwards and give this guy more highlights and more stuff to the raised areas and stuff, probably some pallid witch flesh just to pick out all the details. But you can already see the skin is 100% like Nurgly now. It's green. It's got some great sort of like sick, gross, bilious color to it. And I'm not going to worry about getting this any on the pants and the chainmail because I feel like whatever the tone of his skin is just like it's bleeding down there anyway. And actually, it might look good if I do 2 different layers because I can do 2 different layers. So I'm going to put some into the metals and into that first skull and stuff as well because I want multiple tones on all that armor anyway. I want some brown and some green. And just kind of splotch it onto the axe. Splotch it onto the armor plate here. And then we're going to give him a good amount. Like the one trick is you're going to have to be patient with this. When you're doing character painting, it might get a little frustrating because you do need to let these dry really well. But I'm going to let this guy get fully dry before I apply the next contrast paint. Now that's down. But there he is with his base coats and his first layer of contrast done. And that ain't bad. We got 2 out of 3. What is it? 2 out of 3 chambers of government left, and that ain't bad. Thanks, Jack Nicholson. That's a Mars Attacks reference. There you go. I mean, if you were looking to do a quick paint job, and I mean, this isn't just banging on the model now. You're using underlying colors and stuff too. When that's dry, that's a good tabletop paint job, I'm pretty sure. But I'm going to go back and make it a fully finished painted paint job too. So let's let him dry. All right, so I got bored while I was waiting for the green to dry, and I painted his base with some Scaping Blade Dinge. Yeah, I wasn't waiting that long. So we're going to try some, I want to darken up certain areas of him, like under his pits and his bones and stuff. So I think we're going to take some of the snakebite leather and once again throw some medium in it. I'm not going to use any water this time though, because I do want this to be fairly dark because I'm going to go back over top of it. I'm going to do the axe haft and stuff this way too. I'm going to go back over top of it and give it a highlight. So I do want to stain that underlying color a little bit. That's pretty cool. It's going to look good with the highlight. I'm going to do the bones. So I'm going to do the skull. Now the skull was tinted green already, but I did not base coat that skull the same as these up here. And this should just pop some definition into it when it goes down. Not too much, but enough to make all those, so the bones and these like spurs growing out of him have some like little tiny indents in them at the base, and this should pool around there, just like a wash. And I'm going to blot it into and around all of the busted in bits of his armor and stuff too. Paint it into the edges, because I'm really just using this as a stain to give a bit of grossness. And I'm going to do it on the leather as well. And the trick is I'm actually going to kind of come down a little bit out of the chainmail, so it looks like the chainmail has become stained, and the chainmail has some, like, I guess, what do I call it, runoff happening. And again, all the techniques that I'm using right now are just basically painting with glazes. This is not really new, or painting with washes. This isn't super, like, revolutionary. But the paint themselves are good quality. They have a lot of pigment in them, so you can thin them, and they look nice and strong. They have a nice strong amount of tone and pigment inside. I'm gonna blot some more on the front, just getting it around his rivets in there. And I like this snakebite leather because it's got a bit of greenish tint to it. So when I put it down, it has a, it goes nice with the green that's already on there. If you look at that, I like that. That's a cool, almost like sunken waterlog to it. And I'm gonna paint this into the recesses of the armor. So where his greaves are, that little cleft in his toe, right? Paint it just onto that bronze to stain it. And this is pretty quick. I mean, you can use this in lieu of, you know, other techniques to give kind of like a tone to the armor and stuff. And then we're gonna give him this big giant fatty axe here, his mulching axe, because he makes mulch out of people. He like makes contagion points out of dudes because his axe is so gross that when it hits you, it turns you into rotten corpse mulch. So again, not even like trying to get it onto the blade itself, just kind of stippling it into the marks there. And you know what, I totally forgot to paint that, so we're gonna stain the whole, we'll stain the whole bug on his greave and hope that when I bring it back up with some bronze, nobody notices. Not that I didn't, you know, just do this on camera and everybody saw, but whatever. I think that's pretty good. I gotta get the underside of this with that snakebite leather, just to give it some more gross oldness. And now he's starting to really pop. His skin is popping against the armor and stuff, which is pretty cool. It's looking really good when it's dry. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some purpley pinks. We're gonna use Contrast Volupus Pink for all of his little broken open sores and like busted open pustules. And I'm gonna throw some medium in there because I don't want it as dark as it can be. I just want to thin it out, because that's what you're really doing when you're adding medium to these contrast paints. You're basically stretching out the space between the pigment. So it's a lighter pane of glass, and I'm just gonna paint that into all these kind of raw, busted open pustule bits. And on his gut sack there that's hanging out, that's gonna give him some sort of like painful oozing sores, make that look a little more gross gutsy. And again, I'm gonna do that with the warp block green. I think I'm not even gonna thin it, I'm just gonna put it right on. Open sores, just trying to keep it inside the recessed detail there. I'm gonna put around the pustules that aren't broken too, just to make them look angry. So like all the little like unexploded sores basically. You're gonna have a little bit of a tint of red to them, because it also makes the skin look kind of angry. And then what I might do is I might actually put it in his recesses and paint it back up to make wherever his straps are basically for his armor. And there's a chest strap there, look a little bit angry too. Around his helmet, maybe he's grown out of his helmet a little bit. Just add a little pink in there. Around his knee, because he's literally like his cankles go to his his hips basically. He's got cankles that go all the way up. There we go. And inside these recesses. And so what that's gonna do is just give him a nice sort of like sickly, zombified flesh look. And it's just like painting with any other glaze. Like this is no different than painting with washes and stuff. I would say that the biggest strength so far that I'm noticing with these paints when I do this is that they stay where I put them. They're viscous enough that they kind of like stay put and sit still, which is really nice. So I'm gonna throw some of that great Warp Lightning, sorry, not Warp Lock Green. That's the regular paint on his exploded gut sack. And I'm not even gonna thin this, I'm just gonna put it right down because it looks like ooze coming out now. It's whatever Papa Nurgle's ooze is. There, coming right out of there. And he's starting to come together. So the last thing I want to do is just that chest strap. I did put some pink in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use pure undiluted wildwood, I think, on there to make that pop out. And he has a couple of straps underneath his arm too. So no thinning this time. Just putting that straight down. Hopefully it's dry enough. It just either acts as a base coat or doesn't bleed at all, but it's looking pretty good. Once again, I said these are pretty good at staying where you put them basically once you paint them down. And then same thing on the back. Put that across there. Same thing underneath, because he's got a couple of these little straps here. This is hard to show you on camera, but they're under his arm there. So we'll just paint those. And then the ones that are holding the skulls to him, I'm just gonna throw some of this brown onto. I'm not too worried about the skulls having them bleed into, because I'm gonna go and highlight them back up anyway. Because this is that snake bite leather is really just acting as a base coat. And there you go. So there's the additional colors of contrast now. We're gonna let him dry, and we'll come back in and do our highlights and finish the base, and he's pretty much done. All right, so Mr. Lord of Plagues is now dry and looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this, using the contrast paints over top of different colored base coats so far. So we'll work on the flesh first. I'm literally gonna use one other color, which is Pallid Witch Flesh, and just blend in the green I was using, which is the Militarum. And so I'm gonna get the same tone, right? Because the nice thing is that you can always use these to tint other paints. So grabbing some of that Militarum, grabbing some Pallid Witch Flesh, and I'm gonna need significantly more Witch Flesh than I have the contrast paint, because it's heavy on pigment. Make myself a nice thin highlight. And just go grab some of the high spots here. I'm using just a medium layer brush, just to pick out the raised areas and give it a little more definition. It'll also help me neaten up all of the sores and like open stuff here with a little bit of, oh, I forgot. He's got a brown strap on the back of his head that I'll have to go back in and touch up. But it's gonna give some nice, sort of like edges to everything. And it actually makes that little sort of purpley pink I put in to make everything look a little bit more, I guess, festering, pop a little bit more too, which is nice. So just going over the raised areas. Got some in an open sore. Let's just mop it up. Back of his arm. On his big thighs, big thick legs. Big thick tree trunk cankly legs. Oh man, this is gross. Even just painting this part is kind of gross. And then his other arm. And again, I'm just using this to add a splash of light basically to all the skin. His elbow, back of his arm. And what's nice is the contrast paint actually thins the Pallid Witch Flesh for me, so I didn't even have to really add any water to it. It just gives a nice glow to everything. Get in there. And again, just doing the top edge of everything to give sort of a top-down light effect to the highlight. This is a great miniature for the contrast paints. Again, I picked this one because it was in my bits box. I've had this stuff in my bits box for some time, but two, well, since 8th edition at least. But two, he's perfect for the contrast paints because he lets me show off how they pool and sort of like move around, because all of the Nurgly dudes have a wonderful pile of raised details. Now let's just get his knucks and his fingers here and make them pop out. Same on the other side. There's a bit of stuff in there. Pick at the ends of his fingers. And then what I'll do now is I'm going to go through some pure Pallid Witch Flesh. Probably a smaller paintbrush. What do we got here in my heavy metal paintbrush box? We've got a small layer, that's what I'm looking for. And some Pallid Witch Flesh. It's funny, those little cases were the first time I think that Workshop sold sable hair brushes for many years. But they're great just to carry your brushes in. If you don't have one, they occasionally turn up on eBay. And so now I'm just gonna do the outline of all these sores, the tops of all these unbrushed pustules, which I'm probably gonna go after with a technical paint later. And just give a little bit of light to all these raised up spots. Make it look like the blood is basically pooling in his body. So the higher up on him we go, the more pale and fish belly like he is. Get his knuckles again. I'm like obsessed with making sure this stays centered in the frame, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. So my apologies for when I spin around and try and get like a hard to reach place and you just stop being able to see everything. And then on here, get his wrist. That's looking pretty good. Other arm, top there, and then turn around, get the back of his elbow, and get the back of his folds, I guess we'd call them, of his back fat. And then up here as well, he's got some sweet neck folds around that strap I have to go back and paint. But what's nice is getting all of the like subtle colors in here using the contrast paints was super fast. Like it was way quicker than going in and doing it by hand would be, or layering in thin down paints. So his skin's looking pretty great with a minimal amount of effort in a pretty short amount of time. There we go, skin's basically finished, it's just the details now. I'm gonna go back in with a little bit of this pink where it's not quite dried right, or where I've just accidentally painted over it. And hit it again. Any of the pustules that I wanna just kind of make look angry, now that they're highlighted, I'll go in and just touch around. And he's looking pretty good, that's not too bad. So let's do the bones. And I'm just going to decide right now, making the executive decision, that the handle of his axe is also made out of some kind of giant bone that he's just stabbed. So I'm going to use some Screaming Skull, and I'm going to put a dot of the snakebite leather into it just to darken it down for the first one. I'll use pure Screaming Skull for the second one. Go in and just paint in all of the raised parts on the axe just to make it look like it's got some sort of grain to it. Go around the top and do that. Same with these guys. I'll very often use the flat of my brush for big bony spurs like this, just to give it a nice high point of light. Come back down the other side and do the same thing. Here as well. And this is going to set it apart again from the diaper that I painted, his weird chainmail diaper. And so we'll get some on the skulls as well, and this will take it up a bit higher so it looks more bone-like and less just leathery. Pick out the raised areas. Same with the one down here. Pick those out too. And then the one in his helmet. So with bones, I always go light at the ends to darken the base. So I always start to try and work it from the end back to the beginning. And a little bit darker, I want a little bit more of the bleach bone, or the Screaming Skull, no, not Screaming Skull, the snakebite leather at the top there. And then we go in with some pure Screaming Skull and just pick out the edges so it's a bit lighter. Pick out the top of the horns so they look nice and bright. And again, I like using my side of my paintbrush just to hit whatever the raised areas are on these, especially if I'm going fast and saving time. You guys don't want to watch me paint 3 bone spurs forever. To the back side, pick out some light on these, and then also do it on the horn growing out of his skull, because I'm pretty sure that's not a part of the helmet. I'm pretty sure that's actually just part of him, Mr. Lord of Plagues. Give it some striations, I can just paint them on. So that horn's kind of rounded. There we go. And then back down to the skulls, pick out the high points. When I do skulls, I like to go around the eye socket, to the very top of the head, and then just pick out the nose and the teeth. And that kind of makes it pop out. So again, around the eye sockets on this one, pick out the nose and the teeth. Careful not to get any on the straps that are going around the head there. Starting to come together. Gonna get a bit of that wildwood, get that strap on the back of his head, and that can dry while I work on something else. It's super subtle, but it's right there. There we go. There we go. Now he's got something to carry keep his Jason mask on. So I'm gonna use a little technical paint. I'm gonna use a Waystone green on the slime on his tummy. This is a nice kind of like semi-gloss green. And just paint that over top. It'll help finish that out. And I'm also gonna dab it into some of these bits. Just because it's a nice way to get that sick sort of look to it. I could do this after I gel coat him, but I'm probably not gonna gel coat him because he's plastic. Unless the finish on one of these things ends up being something I don't like. That just makes this look kind of fun and green and gross. I'm happy with that. I do want to make his eyes glow. I kind of do. I'm kind of tempted to do that. So let's give him a dot of moot green and a dot of warpstone glow and see if we can get him to have some like, what's that, corpse lights? Is that what they call it? Corpse lights? His 3 eyes. So dot them with that, give them a second to dry. I don't let them dry completely usually though. And I do this because I want them to blend a little bit just on the model. I'm just gonna wet blend it. So grabbing some moot green. And I'll do the bottom, like of the eyes, and just kind of wet blend it as it goes. Just to give it a subtle kind of like gross glow. Sort of like corpse gas. Is that, maybe that's the term? All right, let's do some metallics. I'm gonna do a blast from the plast and use chainmail, because I think I still have a good pot of chainmail. I do have a good pot of chainmail, but then for the ultimate highlight, I'll use Stormhost Silver. Chainmail is one of my all-time favorite colors, and I have about half a pot left of this era Citadel chainmail. It just covers really well, doesn't separate ever for some reason in the pot, and is just great. And I'm gonna use this to low light and edge the axe, because you don't want the axe to be super shiny, but you want it to look like there's bare metal where he's banged it into stuff. So what I tend to do is just grab a highlight on the bottom of all of these like chips and dents and rust pockets to make it look as though he sharpens it by banging it into rocks. And I'll grab those nails and stuff at the same time that are grown out of this piece of bone axe. So it's mostly sharpened by impacting other people's armor. And so I'm just gonna feather the edge and give it a nice chopped look, and then I'll go back and do it again with like an ultimate highlight. This can be the penultimate highlight of some silver. Same thing here, bit of silver, bit of silver, bit of silver on the edge of this. Grab those 3 things, grab around the edge. And you can see now, this is the power of these contrast paints, is they're giving a really nice richness to the metallic underneath, and then the silver is just kind of popping how different the layers of colors are on him. And that's just some of that snakebite leather. Like that right there, that bug is just some snakebite leather over top of the metallic. And I'll highlight that with a nice brassy brass. So same thing, getting in the toes here, just feathering in some chainmail. Painting chainmail like it's 1999. Do the back part, and again, I can use that to kind of fade in the bit of this that I put on here as well, so that chainmail looks nice and transitioned between the brown, the green, and the underlying boiler black P3 color. Grab the edges of all the armor on this side, get his toes, his little cloven hoof of armor. Get the chainmail over here too, which I didn't grab yet. Go through the underside and just pick those out too. And so what's cool is that we're doing a 30-day paint challenge for the meeting engagement rules, and I have exactly 30 miniatures in my army, and this is miniature number 1. So it means I don't have to paint anything on Saturday. But on Sunday, I'm gonna do a model a day using this exact same technique and get 30 miniatures, get a whole meeting engagement army done basically in the 4 weeks after the launch of the contrast paints. Keep wanting to say foundation paints because that was another big paint launch. I get the back of this shoulder pad, pick out the bottom of these divots and stuff too. Yeah, I really like how that snakebite leather looks over top of, you can see that sort of like greenish, because snakebite leather used to turn green. I guessed this would happen, but snakebite leather used to turn green when you'd put it over top of black. And so I was suspecting if they've used even close to the same pigment type, it might have a similar effect if I put it on top of the metallics. That's too big brush stroke. Wipe that off. And get in there with some more. That's looking pretty good. And then let's get some Stormhost Silver and just do the super ultimate edges. Actually, before we do that, I'm gonna use you just to touch up. I don't like that highlight's too big. Touch up the edge of that. And let's grab that bronze and do all the bronzy bits, because I'll actually put Stormhost Silver into other metallics to lighten them. Sycorax Bronze is what this one's called. And it's a nice light bronze, which should look good on that fly. Yeah, it's popping. I like that. That looks really good. That really popped nicely. Let's put a bit of that on his little 3, I don't know, subway tokens that he's got on his belt there. And then I think that was it for bronzy stuff. Yeah, it's looking pretty done. And then I'm gonna dump some Stormhost Silver into that same bronze and just give it one more, just bang a detail on the edge. Same with his little fly. Yeah, I dig that. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that so far. Let's try one last little highlight in the eyes. We're gonna use some Gauss Blaster Green and put a dot of that in the very bottom there just to make them glow a little bit more. Get a point on you. So I just want a tiny little bit and make that pop there at the bottom for a nice glow. There we go. Make those eyes kind of shine. Shine on, you crazy diamond. Yeah. Oh wait, did I forget the back of this thing? I totally did. I'm not gonna go too crazy on the back because no one's ever gonna see it. I'm just gonna bang the edges out and then get the bit of the silver around. Just kind of almost stippling it around the corrosion there. All right, let's do your diaper. And that means, once again, throwing a bit of something other than something, but I'm gonna throw it into this Xandri dust that I use as the base coat, and really just almost take it back to the base coat. I think is all I really need to do here. Just going around the edge, the Xandri dust, just to make it pop a little bit more cleanly. Edges, like that. Painting is fun. I like relaxing painting. One of the nice things about this, there we go, his little diapery thing is nice and highlighted. One of the nice things about doing painting this way, where you're just sort of blocking in cool base coats and then using the paint itself to create the transitions and like nice fades, is it's very relaxing. This is Fulgrim Pink, which I'm going to use just to dot some of these bits of viscera that are hanging out in here, just to make them kind of shine and look appropriately gross. The pink, green, and like corpse colors together really work. And I'm just going to use it to pull out a bit of brightness on the guts. Yeah, it's coming along. And that's really just the rest of the leather. Now I got them turned around. Let's get the straps on these skulls. And maybe a different brown for the strap across his chest. I'm not sure what I want to do there yet. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Strap across his chest. Let's just do a nice simple Mournfang brown. Mournfang brown's a nice simple brown. It's easy to use. Makes almost any other darker brown just glow a little bit. It's a good color. It's basically old bestial brown. For those of you that have been painting for as long as I have and have a hard time remembering new paint names. Bestial brown of yesteryear. There we go. And just pull out those straps. Let the wildwoods dry. That's nice. It kind of just glows now. Pretty happy with him. And we're almost done. I just got to put that Stormhost Silver in. I think we're finished. Maybe just one more highlight on those. Maybe just one more layer of highlight. We'll throw some white in on the bone and stuff as well. So a little bit more Screaming Skull. Oh, you know, actually I won't use white. I'll use Powdered Witch Flesh, because it's a nice off-white, almost like an eggshell. And it means it won't go too bright on me. It'll stay in the same family of that beige. And we'll just get the very ends here with this. But then also, how can I do this? I'm gonna make sure this is on camera. Also bring it back a little bit at the corners and the bottom. There we go. I'm into that. And I'll use this side of my brush just to pick those out. And the same over here. And on the back. And that should give it a little glow at the very ends. I can go get some on his horn over here too. Paintbrush free there while I was doing that. Get the side. There we go. Now that horn is pretty much done. And I'm feeling pretty good about doing some Stormhouse Silver. And calling this dude finished. Tabletop ready. And like I said, this is a tabletop paint job. This is using these to cut corners, but you can get a finished result with the contrast paints just as easily as you can get the kind of muddied, I just banged it onto the pot result as well. So I'm just gonna do the corners here with some Stormhouse. Grab the bottoms, grab the very edge. Again, just kind of feathering it on the edge of the blade here. Give it a nice choppy banged up look. Grab the bottom of these divots. And I'm not going to do this everywhere, really just the spots where I really want a nice stark highlight. So I'm just around his eye at the top there. Edges of these, bottom of that, edge of that, get at the edge of the greaves. Just use the flat of my brush to just go on the edge of the knee there. Feather the rest. And on the back I want to do with that Stormhouse. Maybe just down here. And the very bottom of the chainmail that is inexplicably clean, probably from the rainwater or whatever else that's washing the gross away. And that's feeling pretty good. All right, well there he is. Let's dry brush his base. Do the victory lap, which my buddy, was it Jake that coined that or was it Dave Taylor? I can't remember. I think he said Jake coined it. I can't remember. If it was Jake, then I'm sorry, but it's Dave that always says it to me. So I think it's Dave. I'm just gonna do a nice light dry brush, and this was Administratum Gray. Picking out again, it's really easy on this because it's already got a bit of definition because I white primed it and then painted that gray over top. Just to pick out the details. And I'm gonna do that trick where I leave the dark bit underneath. And then a bit of white. I'm gonna do white or I'm gonna do Powdered Witch Flush again. I like Powdered Witch Flush. I'm using a Citadel shade brush for this, which I really shouldn't be doing, but I like how soft the bristles are. And just pick out the very edge with this. I'm not trying to do this fancy. I'm just kind of gonna dry brush this for an army painting challenge. And we'll do the victory lap with some Abaddon Black. And then we'll let this sucker dry and throw it on the carousel so you guys can see it. And if you know what the victory lap is, it's not an extra year of high school or university. It's painting the edge of the base. It's the victory lap because you've won, you finished painting a miniature. And around we go on my patented Christopher Way the Brush mini grip. Patent pending. Hit the edge. And neaten that up. And we're looking pretty good, looking pretty much done. There he is, what a plagues. I don't know what the time of this video is, but not that long, and using contrast paints over a variety of base coats to get some nice different textures, results, and colors. So this is gonna be my last video for contrast paints. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I don't know if I'll do painting videos again, but there we go. Let's put him on the carousel so you can take a look. All right, so here he is, Mr. Lord of Plagues, all finished up. You can see the contrast paints basically over top of the Wraithbone primer, and then me base coating in all the metallics, his little chainmail diaper there. with, what did I use? I used Xandri dust, and then some beiges and stuff as well on all the bone bits. And you can see you just get different effects. So the green kind of turned different, whether it was on the metallic, whether it was on the skin, whether it was on those like angry sores, or it was on the skulls and the bone and stuff. And then following it up with that snakebite leather, thinned down, gave the rusty bits a nice kind of like, I guess, sick, sunken underwater. He almost looks waterlogged. Like, I think my Nurgle army is going to be from Guerrilla, where the Nurgles turn the swamps into like, it's turned all of like Alariel's like verdant gardens into like gross festering swamps. And this does a good job of it. It's got a sort of underbelly, rotten flesh tone, and it strikes a good contrast with the wood, the bone, and the metallics, I think, when it's all said and done. But it just ties everything together. So I would say that, like I said earlier, of course this stuff can be used to get a nice result on a miniature. You just need to have some patience, you know, follow your drying times, and then use a variety of different undercoats to get different effects from all the different colors. So there it is, my final contrast paint video, number 10. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you for more, I don't know if we're gonna do more painting videos, but tell me what you thought about the whole series below. Obviously I learned a lot about the filming and the recording and stuff, and what you'd like to see in the future. So thanks for watching. Thanks, I'm Ash. Happy wargaming.